transform the food system to nourish our health, land, and livelihood. This event is part of our work supporting Texas schools, localizing their food supply chains for healthier, sustainable school food. And Texas Farm Fresh connects local schools with Texas agriculture. The movement was originally started by Texas Department of Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller to cultivate an enduring mindset among new generations in which foods are chosen with the knowledge that those choices positively impact not only their own health, but the health of their community at large. If I can, I'd like to start off today learning a little bit about who's in the room. So I'm going to open up a Zoom poll. Maddie, are you able to open up that Zoom poll?
Yeah, I think so. Let me, I'll hit launch. It's just poll question number 1 about your role, correct?
Yes, yeah. So if folks want to answer that about what their role is in the food system and what they're coming here today, which hat you've got on. I know a lot of folks are going to be filling multiple roles of this list, but which hat you've got on today? Awesome. And we should be able to see the results of that here soon. Thank you for your help with that, Maddie. So with that, I'm going to transition. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the agenda for today. So we are joined today by Sean Higerd and Diego Diverde with Greener Pastures Chicken, as well as Dr. Rosemary Walzem from Texas A&M University. Sean is the farm manager of Greener Pastures Chicken in Elgin, Texas, which is a certified organic and certified humane chicken farm committed to high quality, ethical, and affordable pasture-raised poultry. Sean himself is a lifelong chicken farmer and studied poultry science at Texas A&M University. Actually took one of Dr. Walzem's classes, so fun full circle here. We are also joined today by Diego Diverde, who's the sales director at Greener Pastures Chicken. Dr. Walzem is a dietitian and researcher who has been studying poultry science at Texas A&M University and has been studying poultry science more generally for more than 20 years. She has a specific expertise in nutritional biochemistry. So after our 2 speakers' presentations, we will have an all-group facilitated discussion where we will turn the mic over to y'all to share about the farm to school successes you've seen in your schools, struggles, questions, ideas, and opportunities to continue learning. I do want to note, if you've got the calendar event, it did say 3:30 to 5:30, but this event will go till 5. With that, I am glad to hand it over to Sean with Greener Pastures.
Hello. So is the slide gonna pop up? Or there we go. All right. So yeah, this is Greener Pastures Chicken. We do pasture raised, organic, non-GMO chicken. So what we strive to do is we strive to provide a better quality chicken, giving it a more natural and better life. We do this by putting them onto the pasture, allowing them to forage for grass, grasshoppers, bugs, you name it. They're out there foraging for it, and really acting like a real chicken. So yeah, we can go on to the next slide. So I'll start by kind of giving y'all an insight on what commodity versus us. So commodity, they typically have a 400-foot stationary barn that's tunnel ventilated. It's got climate control, and a lot of their goals are just, to raise a chicken as fast as possible and as cheap as possible. And they do so in an environment that is enclosed and not really open to the natural environment. So the way we differ is we're really just complete opposite. Actually, we're trying to put them out on the pasture and let the chicken live a natural, free-ranging, pasture-raised life. Yeah, so those are some of our labels. So yeah, we start the chickens out in a brooder. So what this brooder does is You can go on to the next slide. Sorry for the confusion. So we'll start the chicks out in the brooder. And this is because the chicks are really sensitive when they're really young. So they need a heat source, which is we have little propane heaters in there and they'll keep them nice and warm. That little box you see hanging, that's a thermostat. So that'll recognize whether it's too cold in there, and it'll click on that heater, make sure those birds are staying at around 95 degrees, 90 to 95 degrees when they're young. That's just the most comfortable for them. Of course, whenever you walk into a house, 95 degrees doesn't necessarily mean that's what they have to be at. You analyze the birds, making sure that they're comfortable, they're nice and spread out. They're not huddled for warmth, they're not spread around the edges looking for ventilation or anything like that. We'll actually add paper to the ground, add additional feed to the ground so they can find feed easier. We've got drinkers all over the place, and it's pretty cool. A professor at Texas A&M told me one time that the theory behind these drinkers, so they're called nipple drinkers, and what they do is there's a little drop of water that comes off the end of those nipples, and it catches the bird's eye. I believe it's called the pineal gland, but it catches that eye, and they'll run over there and get it naturally. You don't even have to show them. You'll show some of them just so they can show the others, but they'll just go to it naturally. And the theory behind it is the all chickens were domesticated from a red Java jungle fowl, and these red Java jungle fowl are jungle bearing birds. So they're in the jungle and the rainforest where it rains a lot. So when it would rain in the rainforest, little drops of water would drip off of leaves and trees and stuff like that. So they would drink off of it. So that's just a cool story I like to tell. Yeah. So other things we do, we'll grow them up in here for about 2 to 3 weeks until they get their down feathers down, and they get a lot of the feathers so they can be more resistant to heat and cold and whatever the environment in the outside and outdoors allows them. It just allows them to maintain their body temperature a little bit better. In the brooder, we actually have a roll down curtains, so it's open air, open ventilation, so they can kind of see out in the grass and aspire like, oh, I'm about to go out there in the grass. So that's gonna be fun. All of our feed is real top-notch stuff. It's all certified organic. It's actually food grade, so all the food I could actually eat and be completely fine. So it's a lot of corn, soy. It's a lot of good stuff. Alfalfa is actually in it, so that kind of it encourages them to eat grass a little bit sooner when they do get out there. Let's see. I think I've covered everything with the chicks. So this is the three week age that we're going to move them out. So you can see that they've developed their down feathers. They've got a little bit left of that yellow feather on their head. So they've got the right feathers to then go out to the pasture. So we'll add enrichments inside of these. This way they can perch and kind of get off the ground a little bit. We take a lot of tests and analysis daily in all these brooder sections. So we will test the litter, make sure it's friable. And friable just means that you can put it in your hand and open your hand, and all that litter is just gonna spread out. It's not gonna clump together. And if it isn't friable, then we'll go ahead and add some more litter in there or do something to make it better. But usually at that age group, it's not going to be like that. So we'll just move them out to the pasture and give them a better life out there. Let's see. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. So that's the pasture. So these are like state-of-the-art pasture houses. They're really cool. So what they are is there's 2 skids on the side of these houses, and it allows the house to slide vertically across the ground. And they're all floorless. So the house moves to a new patch of grass, and the chickens have a new patch of grass to eat in and grasshoppers to forage on. We have kind of the same technology inside of these houses. We got the same feed pans and feeders, automatic, and also automatic water lines, or the nipple drinker lines. So they don't have a learning curve to learn how to drink from a different different source or anything like that. We've got fans in there because it does get hot in the Texas summer. So we'll turn on those fans, and we'll actually turn on some misters in there too, just to make sure that they're as comfortable as possible. We like to move the houses on a daily basis, but really it's off of analysis. If you see that the grass is eaten away a lot, we know that it's a good time to move it. So we move them usually once a day. Sometimes we can get to twice a day. Let's see what else we got. So the way the pasture set up is there's utilities all lined out there. So there's electric and water. So you move that house forward 100 feet and you plug it in, turn on the water, and you're good to go. Just got to make sure the bird's always comfortable. That's a big thing that I like to teach people, is you're always analyzing the birds, because they're going to tell you what they want. If they're too hot or too cold, they'll show you by the way they are in the house, or they'll chirp differently, or there's just a bunch of different ways. You can just look at a bird and know if it's comfortable or not, or know what needs to happen in order to make that bird comfortable. Yeah, so we got shade cloth on these houses too. That way it gives them kind of a shaded area so it's not too hot and they don't have direct sunlight hitting them. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's good on that slide. Yeah, this is just a little video clip of me moving the house. So it's a pretty easy process. You just hook up the tractor, unhook all the water lines and power, and then herd the birds forward. So you'll get in there, you'll herd them forward, make sure they get to the front of the house. You'll move it forward half the way, herd the birds forward again once more, and then move the house the rest of the way. And then voila, they're on a new patch of grass. So it's cool. You're just giving them new litter every single day to peck at and forage in. So they're not just constantly sitting in their own feces. So, and it's really cool. I think one of my favorite things about it is just watching a bird exhibit its natural behaviors. So they'll do that in a conventional house, but they're exhibiting their natural behaviors on litter, like on just pine shavings, basically covered in feces. So it's cool to see them do it in the grass where they're looking for bugs, and you'll see it's cool. Like you'll see them, one will grab a grasshopper, and then all the other birds will get really jealous and chase after that grasshopper, and they'll fight over it for a little bit until one actually swallows it. So it's just really cool to watch. It's like, it's like euphoric just to watch those birds do that. It's something I really enjoy about it. I know it's kind of weird, like you're just a chicken guy, but I enjoy it. So this is a really cool slide too. The lane on the right had never had chickens on it before, so no birds ever ran on it. Those two spots had the same amount of rain. They had the nothing was different about those two halves, other than one side had birds ran over it and trampled down and pooped on it and fertilized it and made it more healthy soil. So those are really the only two differences. One had birds on it and one didn't. So you can just see how fertile and how nutrient dense just their feces is, not to mention what they're eating. That's being soaked into their meat and all that good stuff. Dr. Walzem could probably tell you more about that, but yeah, that's one of my favorite pictures. It's just really lush and green on the left side and dry and a little bit arid on the right. So
yeah, an important detail about this slide too is we're still on track to become the first poultry farm nationwide to obtain a regenerative organic certified status. So we're not just humane, but sustainable farm. It's really important that I think a lot of families can rally around, and I think it's a really important value to pass on to our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's Vaughn. So that's like our founder and our leader and everything. So he's the owner of all of it. And then Cameron's on the left, he's the CEO. And I think in the middle,
That's Nate Robinson.
That's Nate Robinson, dunk
They were
contest champion.
doing a special for ESPN. But for those of you that saw the Super Bowl, what was that, a couple weeks ago? That was Vaughn, had a couple sacks, helped them. The Rams win a Super Bowl. He actually studied poultry science at A&M.
Oh yeah. So that's how I learned about Greener Pastures Chicken is from Von Miller. I followed him on social media and I saw that he had a chicken farm. And so that's the route I went. I direct messaged him through that and direct messaged Greener Pastures, and voila, next thing you know, I'm a farmer. I'm a chicken farmer. So, and it's actually cool. They've told me that once Vaughn gets done with football, that he actually wants to come out and help me be a chicken farmer. So I think that's pretty cool as well.
Yeah. So the Cornucopia Institute, it's basically made up of academics, farmers, food professionals nationwide that grade farms beyond just getting their USDA organic certification. Because to be frank, there's a lot of companies, food companies nationwide that will do the minimum possible. I think the poultry industry as a whole can be guilty of that in many aspects. But the Cornucopia Institute kind of grades farms on all they're doing, as far as sustainable and organic agriculture is concerned. And we're the highest rated farm in the South, not just Texas. And we're also rated up there with farms in New York that serve Michelin star chefs. We currently serve some of the top chefs here in the region. We're at Die Douai, Barley Swine, Odd Duck. Olame was best restaurant in Austin a couple years ago. And we just keep adding Justine's, a lot of great restaurants, Vespaio or June's All Day over there on Congress. So it's not just sustainable or humane, but we always work on co-branded content with our restaurant partners so that our chefs can communicate, how delicious and juicy and tender our chicken is. If you ever get a hold of one of our chicken breasts, if you separate the chicken, you'll be able to tell right away just the texture, the consistency of our chicken. And then the Real Organic Project also is another certification that we have. And this project was created in response to USDA standards that there's a controversy within USDA organic certifications about hydroponics and whatnot. And Real Organic Project is focused on, proper soil grown products. And that's another important certification that speaks to our mission. And Cameron and Sean here are really important part of that. I mean, they're the whole reason we're able to go out and partner up with these great, food businesses in the region.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. There's a couple pictures here of our chicken.
Yeah, it's really juicy. I can tell you that. That stuff's really juicy.
I think you can go the next. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I think it's Dr. Walzem.
Yeah. Should we mute ours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Regenerative organic certified status. So it's the certification that is being basically created with us because there's 99% of chicken is from CAFO, that'd be confined animal feeding operations versus, as we showed here, we're raising the birds on grass. And not just that, we're not just raising them on grass, but we're adding to the soil. We're adding like another a quarter inch or half inch of soil every year.
Yeah, so you're adding, you can peel back that, say you see a layer of the manure that they dropped, you can pick that up and it's actually not even manure anymore. It's turned into soil at that point.
Yeah, if y'all have seen or read about our soil situation, it's not great nationwide. Just there's a lot of tilling, there's a lot of monoculture, and we need. There's a really important part as to why greener pastures is important, just beyond the chicken. As we're adding back to the soil, and I think that's something that a lot of, hopefully we're leading by example in that aspect, that a lot of other farmers can see what we're doing and see if they can hopefully apply the same techniques that were rotational grazing, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Hallie, do you want me to start now?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so that was some pretty great looking chicken. I need to come over there. You need to barbecue for me. Looks tasty. So what I was asked to do was to consider, if you're trying to develop a network, not everybody is as dedicated as Sean and Diego as far as getting certified and all that. So if you're trying to get sources of poultry products, eggs, meat, how do you source them and keep them safe, since you are trying to deliver them through food service in a school to children? And so I'm trying to just mostly give you resources so you can start developing that kind of network, because I think it's going to be something that you have to build. Let's see, next slide. So I'm going to tell you some about the entities that are involved in grading and inspecting poultry and eggs, and how safety and quality, and then how would you go about sourcing them. There are some resources so you can identify producers that are Texas. Next slide. Okay, so these are the entities that are involved. There's the USDA Food Safety and Inspection Service, and I've included the links on these so that if you have interest and want to go delve deeper into this, because there are many pages of instructions and information that you'll get. So USDA is where you would have your inspectors and that you interact with to get the various certifications. There's the Food and Drug Administration, which interacts with shell egg producers that have more than 3,000 hens, and they have their own regulations. And so if you're sourcing eggs from a smaller producer, I guess my recommendation would be that you always want to get them inspected by somebody official so that you have that part of your liability covered. And in that regard, the Texas Department of Agriculture and the Texas Department of Health Services also have programs to inspect and certify eggs in particular. Additional sources of information on how you go about this, you could do the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, and they have, there's the Poultry Science Extension, but there are also other parts of the program in the nutrition and health sectors of the AgriLife that also have information and that you can reach out to and get information. So I've given you their general email, well, their general link that you can land on and hunt around in there. Again, it's a pretty large web page. Next slide. So I was told that, I mean, I see that most of you are school food service. You probably are really familiar with this, but just in case, this is to point out that there is a difference between inspection and grading. So the inspection and grading of poultry are two different programs, and inspection is done for wholesomeness to make sure that you don't get sick. It's mandatory and it's paid for out of tax dollars. Whereas grading for quality is voluntary. It's a service that producers have to request and they have to pay for in order to have that. They've been changing some of their rules. And so what I tell you today may be a little bit different next year. They're starting to move to where producers are documenting programs that get approved, and then there is follow-up to make sure that they are following their programs. And the place where this is now in place is egg products. Egg product plants now no longer have to have a full-time USDA inspector on site. They can develop a plan and implement their own hazard analysis and critical control point system, so HACCP, and sanitation standard within their operating procedures. And then FSIS, the Food Safety Inspection Service, will still be responsible though for testing all their products for salmonella and listeria in egg products. So it's sort of a new strategy, and I guess we'll find out how well it works. Next slide. Okay, so these are the inspection marks that come on inspected poultry. And poultry is graded in terms of quality as A, B, or C. So there are penalties, of course, for misuse of grading or inspection labels. And any vendor that you're working with, you would want to make sure that they in fact are using these stamps correctly, and that they in fact are what they say they are. So poultry is graded as A, B, or C. That's their grades. Now, probably you're more familiar with things like prime, choice, or select, which goes with beef. But if in fact those sorts of terms are associated with a poultry product, that product has to grade out as grade A in order to have that used on it. So if you get a product that really isn't being graded out at A, it's at some lower level, but it still has those words on it as sort of a marketing thing, then that's a problem and something that you should not tolerate. So the letters, the USDA, these all are indicated as a grade mark that a USDA inspector has looked at them. And so again, they've gotten a little more flexible, and so they can go ahead and use the A, B, and C grades if the person is qualified to grade according to the USDA, and a USDA grader comes through and checks that in fact they are grading appropriately. So it's a little bit looser, but I'm sure everything from greener pastures probably comes out as A, right? Always.
Amen.
So the words prepared from, so if you're looking at, a processed product, a nugget or whatever, then if it's prepared from or similar wording, you can only use the grade mark if the product in fact used poultry starting material that was that grade. So if you want to get into grading, and oh my goodness, there's some detail there that you have to learn. The link that I've given you here goes to the actual grading manual. And so they look at this grading. This is all quality. So it's the proportion of meat to bone. Is the skin there? Does it have breaks in it? Absence of feathers, freedom from discolorations, broken legs, things like that. So those sorts of things come into the quality assessment, not the wholesomeness. You could have a product that isn't necessarily quality-wise as desirable, but it could still be wholesome. It wouldn't get you sick. And so it's important to recognize there's sort of two sides to grading and inspection. They're two separate things. Next slide, please. So in Texas, we have the Egg Quality Program, and the mission of the Egg Quality Program is to ensure that the eggs sold to Texas consumers meet TDA's quality standards. And so this is a separate inspection program that state of Texas does. It works at packing plants, distribution centers, retail outlets, and it licenses people and businesses that participate in the egg industry here in Texas. And the link at the bottom goes to the application for an egg license and gives a description of what the different people are. And this was a program that was started up by Sid Miller, and you'll see his name at the top of that, top of the form for requesting a license. Next slide. So when you're grading eggs, again, there's a difference between wholesomeness of an egg and the quality of an egg. And those of you that are involved in food production are probably very well aware of this. And when it comes to eggs, they grade them both for size and then for quality. So this is the USDA standard for the different sizes. How much must a dozen eggs weigh to say that it is a dozen of small eggs or a dozen of jumbo eggs, how much each egg should weigh. And so these are the weight standards. Then when you get into looking at quality, those of you that cook, you know that if you're doing some sort of fresh egg prep, like a fried egg, or you want to, use something that is like whipping whites and things. You want a nice fresh egg. So this is going to be an egg that has a small air cell. As these air cells get bigger, it means the egg is getting older. And so one of the most obvious ways they grade, you break out an egg and you look to see, is the white firm? Is it mounding up? Is the yolk on top, or is it spreading out all over creation? So different things are needed. Grade A eggs are usually perfectly acceptable for most things, except those that need really a very fresh egg that's going to be viewed, and it's this sort of way, which is not, at least in my experience, not all that frequently needed in a school setting. Okay, so that's quality. Again, the link takes you to more detail than I could possibly cover in an hour as far as how you go about grading eggs. Next slide, please. Now, it turns out you can read your egg cartons to figure out where in the heck these eggs come from, and it gives you other information. And what the information that is on the carton is prescriptive in terms of how it has to be labeled to be correct. And so we have a principal display panel, which is going to be the top, and it's going to give you the name of the producer. That's going to be clearly legible and bold so that you can read it and know who sold you those eggs. You need to have information saying that you need to keep these eggs refrigerated. You need to have a sell-by date, and then you'll also have another code. And the thing about the sell-by date, so it's easiest to see on this particular box. Here we see the sell-by date is October 17th, and the Julian date, which is tells you exactly which day of the year, 1 through 365, that those eggs were packaged. So, you know, if we started in January 1 and counted to 261, that's the day that this pack of eggs was processed. Now, the other thing that's really informative on the carton is this number here. This is the plant code. And you can look this up and see where the plant is that actually processed these eggs. And then somewhere on the carton, either inside the lid or on the outside, you need to have these safe handling instructions should be there. That's just a required piece of information that you need to see on the carton for it to pass standards of egg safety. Next slide. Okay, so is this past electronic resources or before it? Okay, good. So I show this one simply because you should realize that there is a process to actually getting a clean egg. And it starts with how you actually collect the eggs. So you want to start with clean eggs, and the easiest way to get clean eggs, if you're getting pastured eggs, they're still going to have a place where the hens go to lay the eggs. You don't want to have eggs laid actually on the grass or in the dirt because they're coming in contact with things that could contaminate the egg. So usually in an egg production setting, they will have a place, a nest, where the chicken will go to lay her egg. And so you want the nest to be clean, which means you need to, the producer needs to go in and make sure that the litter in the nest is clean. And in this case, what you're seeing in this picture is a setup. This is a small producer, and these are the nest boxes. They're just sort of metal enclosures that chickens get in them. They're a little bit darker than the outside, so the chickens like to lay their eggs in a sort of semi-dark place. And they've put in, you can see this is AstroTurf, and AstroTurf is easy to wash. The eggs get on the AstroTurf, and in this case, it's set up so the egg then rolls out into a catchment, and the chickens can't get back here. And so this keeps the egg from being it prevents it from being too close to manure or anything like that, because once a chicken actually lays their egg, comes right out, and if there's a tilt on the ground, that egg rolls. And so this is a way to have nice sanitary eggs. If the birds are laying their eggs in nests that there isn't a rollout, that it's a horizontal nest, then you do want to make sure that the producer is really rabid about keeping that litter clean so that the hen lays her egg into clean litter, not into manure covered litter. So even with that, and that's sort of egg, if it's coming out of a situation with clean litter or rolling out like this after, you know, the bird lays it, these are what they call nest clean eggs. And so those are really the best to start with. But even after that, typically there is a further cleansing that goes on just to stabilize the eggs and make sure that they store well. And so the keys to all that, I've laid out these steps that are recommended. For the most part, one of the things you have to remember, an egg is an incubator for an embryo. And so the shell itself is quite porous because you have to have gas exchange for the embryo. And as a result, the egg is susceptible to having water soak into it. And so you can't dip or soak. You don't want to like set up a wash station and then wash them like you're washing in dishes in a sink, because at that point, if you have one dirty egg go into the sink, now all of your water is dirty. So instead, the better way, they spray the eggs with an approved egg detergent. And I'm showing you one that's from Texas, Egg Bright. And so they spray the eggs and kind of wash that part off. And then they rinse the wash off with water. And as they're doing this egg processing, you also have to pay attention to the temperature of the water. You don't ever want it to be hotter than the egg or colder than the egg, because that will make fluids move in and out of the shell in an inappropriate way, and you could get contamination in your eggs. So once you've got them cleaned off, then you can also apply a sanitizer. And as far as if you're going for super organic and all that, I would say that that's something you're going to have to investigate, set your standards so that you have your safety versus, you know, what it is in terms of lifestyle that you're going for, to make sure that the eggs that you've got are good. And then you want to make sure the eggs are dry before you package them up, because you don't want the water soaking into the shell. And then you want to refrigerate those eggs and get them to 45 degrees Fahrenheit to prevent any further bacterial growth. And some people leave eggs out at room temperature, and you know, it can be that those stay safe, but the quality of the eggs is going to fall apart pretty quickly. So that's really not the recommended way. And you'll see in here that eggs should be delivered refrigerated and held at temperature. Next slide. Okay, so these are some electronic resources that you guys can work with, because one of the initial talks that I had, people were wondering how they could tell. They didn't know, for example, that we have feathercrest farms here in College Station that produces a lot of eggs, and they get sold through vendors like Walmart. And you can tell if you can, Hallie, if you can go to click the link for meat, poultry, shell egg plants. So this is a web page that the USDA has, and you can search it and find out what you want. And they have a variety of these pull down menus. So if you wanted to, for example, just look in Texas, yeah. So we're getting there to the T's. We want to look in Texas, what kind of plant, and we want to look at chicken. Or actually, even if you want to look in, so then here you see all the plants that are Texas plants. They should come up, and you can see the actual addresses for Sanderson's, Tyson's, all of these different companies, and the plant number to the far left is on next to the facility name. Any product that they ship out should have their plant number on them. If we switch from chicken to shell eggs, so there you can see, you could probably find feathercrest if we pull down a little bit, maybe. And that one's just over here in College Station. Wharton County, that's they do a lot of eggs. Cal-Maine is a massive egg producer. There you go. Feathercrest Farms here in Bryan. So you can get Texas eggs, identifiable Texas eggs from what I'm expecting are probably your more historically traditional vendors. So like I say, I know Feathercrest sells, they fill in they sell things through Walmart and other things. I did not have time to check with, I don't know what all food systems you guys use. I don't know if Cisco has a program or Chartwell's where they work actively to get your local sources of meat and eggs, but that might be something either that this group could work on or explore. But I didn't have a contact that would get me that information in time. So this is really helpful. And then the next web link after this one, you can see this is like, you got all kinds of stuff. You go on here, you can be lost for days figuring all this stuff out and reading it, but it'll tell you everything legal that you need to know about meat and eggs inspection. But if we go back to the slide and click on the second one, well, this is good. So this is another one, and this is this particular setup. You guys may know more about it than I do. This is supposedly a program that helps give assistance to schools to support them as far as getting the agricultural things that they need. So I don't know how well that's clicked into what you're doing with Sustainable Food Center, if you're part of that, but this looked like a program that you could probably tap into as far as, we need the training. Once you guys figure out your standards and your protocols, what you'll accept from, small local vendors and things like that, what do they need to do in order to sell to schools? This looks like a group that is set up and part of their mission is to help you get that kind of stuff done because it's focused on agriculture. But if we go to that middle web link, this one, so this is kind of, if it'll pop up for us, this is the one that you can look and see what products. So you may have only really hit this one when you get a recall notice and you have to go look something up and see, check if this number is, if you've got this number, then throw this out. So you can turn this kind of thing around and look and see which plants make what kind of stuff if it's fitting into your menu plan for your school food service. And if it doesn't work here, I mean, these slides are, from my understanding, going to be made available to all of you. And that's why I gave you all these web links so you can go and look at this and take what is helpful to you. And so let's see what the next slide is. I think this goes through more of the, well, there it was. I guess it was a slow load. This one, so here's the recalls. And then if you can search these, like if you wanted chicken nuggets, I think if you did chicken nuggets and who makes them. Well, it's telling you all this, but you can also look and see there should be plants that you can identify. There you go. This is the page. So this tells you who does what kind of processing happens. Again, on the left, we could pick Texas. And you could see what plants are present in Texas. Now these are large, these are commercial ones. So I know there was some interest in you guys getting like smaller ones that would service smaller producers. And I think that I told some, and you could, so you can see what they do. So here it is in Texas. You could find out what it is that they're doing. So if you livestock slaughter, are they killing them? Poultry slaughter, you could see if you want poultry slaughter. What sort of thing are they doing? Are they a processing plant? Are they inspected? So you can go through this and you can look at all these different companies, these service providers, and figure out exactly what they're doing, what their inspection status is, what are they processing, what are they making? Are they making fresh cuts? Are they making nuggets? What are they doing? So this is a place where you can kind of explore and find out who's doing what, and then ultimately, you know, if in fact you get to the point, I don't know if anybody found out any more about that program that Biden was talking about to get smaller producers, like sort of cooperative processing, to let smaller producers compete effectively against the big guys. But that's something that may evolve. But this is already here. This is USDA. They keep track of what everybody's doing, and you know what their HACCP size is, what they're doing. So a lot of information about these plants if you're deciding who you're picking from as far as what products you want to be serving on your menu. Okay, so now we could go forward, and I think the last few slides just give a little more detail about the egg license. So these are sort of rules that are already here in Texas. And what I was not sure of is how school service is considered, because I don't really think of it as a retail food establishment. But that's something you probably, you know, your Department of Agriculture people would know how they classify school food service, or if school food service falls under federal, if it's covered by, you know, SNAP and all of that. So those kind of laws I'm going to leave to the school food service managers, because I'm sure they know them better than I do, working with them day by day. But retail food establishments cannot use or sell ungraded eggs. Eggs have to be from somebody that has one of these Texas egg licenses. If you go back to that application, it says what you have to do to get the egg license. And so there are rules about how you package your eggs and all of that. The eggs have to be clean, sound, and at least grade B. And they have to be delivered refrigerated at 45 degrees Fahrenheit or a little bit less. You don't want them too cold, you don't want to freeze. Next slide. So the things to consider on this egg license: the eggs have to be graded. You can't sell ungraded eggs. And I'll have a slide that says what you do then. If you're buying ungraded eggs, it has to be labeled ungraded eggs. But this one, again, because it's looking at quality, you have to pay for an inspector to come and make sure your eggs are at the quality that you say they are. And you have to submit monthly reports if you're an egg producer that says how many eggs you sold. And then you have to pay a certain amount because it's per egg that the inspector works. Next slide. So here's the contacts for both the Texas Department of Agriculture contact for egg licensing, and then organic certification. So this is for eggs that are getting graded. Next slide. So I don't think anybody in school is going to be selling directly to consumers. But if you're doing that sort of thing, you have to get food establishment, you have to get a food establishment license. And so that means the building has to be fit for purpose. You have to be licensed by your local health department. And then you also have to sign up with the state. If you're selling ungraded eggs there, those definitely have to be labeled ungraded, and they have to have the actual producer's name and address. Farmers markets, if you're sourcing material from farmers market, I think that's got to be a gray area. And hopefully whoever is selling through a farmer's market, if you're buying for a school, you're setting up a relationship with them where the deliveries are not by you going down every Wednesday and Saturday to the farmer's market and picking stuff up. Next slide. So this is a problem. This is an example of something you should not accept. If you were getting eggs from a source that was not one of your standard commercial sources, here we see these eggs and they appear to be from HEB, but that's not where they're from. These are from some guy's backyard and they put them in a box that he had. So that part is not legal. And that's not something you should accept if you're trying to source things for your school. You want to make sure that the eggs and the meat are packaged in the packaging of the company that's putting it together for you, or the producer that's putting it together for you. And so you know where you got them from and you can track back. That may be it. There may be one more slide. These are just some other additional sources of information that I wanted to give. This is the Egg Safety Center. This is from the egg producers. So it gives all sorts of information generally about proper handling of eggs and all kinds of stuff. And it has a blog. So if you like opinions, they've got them. You know, so this is one source of information. And then the next slide has additional sources of information. So National Chicken Council will tell you things about chickens. They are more of the larger scale producers. Texas Poultry Federation is here for Texas and would know a lot about producers within there. The state itself. American Pastured Poultry Producers, they are another group, and so they're clearly focused on providing the kind of eggs that, or meat that we just heard about. United Egg Producers, another one. And then the last one is food packaging labels. I thought was interesting because if you click on that, if you guys can land on that thing, this is something that if you were setting up with a producer that could be really helpful, because what this company does is it makes labels for you that hit the specifications, so that if you have a producer that is certified and has signed up, it will then go through and set up labels for them that meet the legal requirements so they can sell to you. And so I would guess that this cooperative, in part, you're trying to hook up producers with schools that want to buy things. And so some of the smaller producers in particular may need some help with things like labels and packaging and all of that. And so this is a way they can get around that. And then the last thing that I forgot to say when we were on it, but at the USDA website, there is a place where you can sign up to get searched or inspected. So that very first, not this guy, I think it's this one. If we go back to the landing page on this one, there is a place where you can, and you know, Sean may know this already because I'm sure they had to go through this process, but there's a place where you actually can apply for USDA inspection. So if you have a producer that wants to sell, but you want them to be inspected, they can go ahead and apply to be inspected and go through that process to get themselves certified so that you know that the products are safe for use. And I think that's pretty much it for me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to both Rosemary and Sean, our speakers for today. If anybody has any questions for either of the speakers, you can pop them in the chat and we can get questions answered. But with that, I'd like to move us on to our facilitated discussion portion of our meeting today. I do think we had a couple more folks log on to the call. So if anybody is interested, if you can, maybe pop your information, your name, where you're located, your affiliation in the chat, so folks kind of know who everyone is. We did do a poll up at the front, but I think we've got some more folks with us. So that'll be a good opportunity for everyone to introduce themselves. If you can, turn your cameras on. We're gonna be kind of having a roundtable discussion. So I'm gonna be asking folks to unmute themselves and share a little bit here. So let's just get everyone kind of switched gears here. Awesome. So the first question that I'd like to pose, and anyone's able to jump in, of your farm to school work in your school, what are you proud of? What is going really well for you? If nobody jumps in, then I'm going to pick on somebody. Marissa, do you want to share?
I can share my honest thoughts, which is that I feel like we're not living up to what we could be right now because of all the challenges with supply chain right now, staffing. I find myself in the kitchens more than at my desk these days. So making partnerships and actually like doing the work on the ground to make this happen has been really difficult. So I would say at this point, not as proud as we could be, but yeah, we're forging ahead, trying to make stuff happen. Margot's on the call. I see her here, and we've got our first, hopefully, shipment of like local oranges coming in, which will be like the first move we've done in a while towards like sourcing locally. So that's been keeping us like engaged and on fire a little bit, is just the possibility of still making it happen, even though we're closing down lines in schools. So yep, it's been pretty hard.
Appreciate that honesty. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have any thoughts off of what Marissa shared? We did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a question. Marissa, are y'all doing any scratch cooking at y'all's kitchens, or is it so understaffed that it's difficult? Like, it sounds like you're actually having to do some of the cooking.
Yeah, we are mostly like heat and serve at this point. Yeah, in past years, it's my understanding. I've only been here 2 years, so I've only seen the COVID world here, but and it's only gotten worse the whole time I've been here. But prior to this, I understand that the scratch cooking was more common in our kitchens. We do use we have a grill at the secondary levels, like middle school and high school, where they'll actually like cook raw beef or chicken for sandwiches and things. But that's really the only place where we have raw meat. We don't have raw meat at all in our elementary schools. So even our beef crumbles for like a quick made scratch chili is pre-cooked. So at the elementary level.
Got it. Thank you.
I did notice that we dropped down to a smaller group when we kind of switched gears. So I wonder if it would be helpful if we quickly did maybe some introductions. Anyone who feels like they might not be as familiar with other folks on the call or might be interested in maybe learning more. Maybe you could start with an introduction about yourself and something that you're interested in learning more about with Farm to School.
I'll go ahead because I came in a little bit late. I had trouble with the link and then things happened. But my name is Honey Alexander, and I'm with Galveston's Own Farmers Market, and I'm actually the program director for our Young Gardeners program here. And it's actually pretty amazing. This is the first year we've actually had some great things happening with a grant that allows us to do Farm to School. And so we have gardens in 8 schools, 6 middle schools, 6 elementary schools and 4 middle schools, and 2 middle schools. I'm sorry, my math. 8 schools total. And we've had the opportunity to harvest the food that the children have grown, take it into the cafeterias and soft prepare it. You know, sometimes we'll serve it raw or just sauteed to the 3rd graders and get their opinions on the food. So we've been doing that once a month since December. So that's been that's been working okay for us. We use the produce grown in the schools and local farmers.
That sounds really cool. And how many schools did you say that was at?
We're doing it, we have 8 schools that we have gardens in, but we have 6 elementary schools, and we're doing it just in the elementary schools, specifically the 3rd grade.
Wow. Have they been enjoying the vegetables, the students?
They have. It's been pretty fascinating. I mean, some of the things about it that have just brought me joy are the kids that are in the gardening program. It's an after-school program that we do. The kids that are in the after-school program are more apt to try a new vegetable or an existing vegetable and enjoy it, and then share that with their peers and say, hey, we grew this, you get to taste it. While the children who have never touched or been in the garden or understand fresh fruits and vegetables are the nayers, you know, they say no. So it really has been a good experience for us to see that bringing them in helps. Touching it, seeing it, being aware of it makes a huge difference in their ability to understand fresh food.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how the Young Gardeners program works? Is it offered through the farmers market and then you guys come in for an after-school program? Is that the connection with the schools there?
Actually, so it's it's through our farmers market, which is kind of the parent company. The Young Gardeners program was brought in as kind of an offshoot because the founder of it wanted to lower diabetes and issues with heart disease and things like that with specifically children of color, but all children. And so we teamed up with the after school program. So the groups that put on the after school program, Texas ACE and TOR, they run it and we're a program within them. Okay. So we're just an additional after school program for them.
Gotcha. So are all the gardens managed after school?
Yes. Okay. No, we have community days. So we have a gardens manager. So most of the teaching part happens during after school, but we have community days where we invite volunteers and communities in the community to come in and do some of the larger projects, some of the maintenance and bigger things that need to be done in the garden.
Okay, and that's managed through the farmers market, then asking for volunteers to come to the schools?
Through the Young Gardeners program. Okay. and in conjunction with the farmers market. Yes, we overlap with our volunteering and support.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Ms. Alexander, has Galveston talked at all about like doing more with incorporating that local food into the cafeterias? Is that something that's of interest?
Absolutely. We're working on, well, with this grant that we're using right now, where, you know, it's kind of at the test phase, our goal is to eventually get this fresh food, these from local farmers and from our own gardens, into all of the schools and part of the regular lunch menu. Hopefully, you know, a few times a month, of course, because sustainability, but eventually have it part of the menu.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. It's exciting, that grant.
It's exciting. It's literally life-changing when you see the children eat it and know what they're eating and enjoy it. It's profound.
Does anyone else want to share about some things that might be going well or something that they're interested in learning more about?
Absolutely. Hey, Haley, it's Margot. You know, great talking to you again. Unfortunately, my connection is still unstable, so it's going to be my headshot off of LinkedIn that you will see. But I hope you guys can hear me well. I'm Margot Robertson. I am the Farm to School Specialist and Partnership Coordinator for the Common Market Texas. We are a nonprofit who takes the place of bridging the gap through providing wholesale produce to anchor institutions like schools. And shout out to some of my school people. See out there like Travis and Boehner and everybody else. Great seeing y'all. We work with an aggregated network of 34 small and mid-sized sustainable farms that are BIPOC owned, family owned, and very transparently based within a 400-mile sourcing radius in Texas. We're really proud of the work that we're doing. We've seen such amazing stuff. I mean, we're talking about poultry acquisition, and we're seeing that happen in schools, in a public school setting, and we're seeing participation rise and really cool opportunities and kids enjoying this food. And not only that, but we're seeing opportunities for field staff to become educated with culinary skills in order to utilize this food, and bridges being made with incredible food service workers. Shout out to all of you guys, because 2021 was like a hot mess, and 2022 is the year of pushing through the exhaustion, and you guys are out there feeding our kids. And it's amazing to be a part of a system, especially working with SFC, to get like this really great quality food into our regularly served meals through the cafeterias. It's been awesome. And we're here. We're always looking to help bridge the gap between local procurement And we're here to listen to both our school partners and our producers in our network. And we're trying to do our connect and help. He always knows how to get in touch with me, and we're around and we're available. So it's really great. Just big congratulations to all you guys for pushing through this year.
Thank you for sharing that, Margot. Yeah, y'all are such a fantastic resource. I'm so glad that you're here today to talk a little bit more about that. And yeah, it's been astounding to see all of the challenges that have come down and all of the ways that food school nutrition staff have had to push through.
I think it also speaks really to our producers as well. The adaptivity that we've seen with our producers in the Southeast Texas region and the Central Texas region to make the accommodations that they can make as best to their infrastructure capabilities to meet the needs of food service professionals and make sure that we do get good food. It takes collaborative efforts like this to make that happen.
I love that. End on a note of collaboration. Ryan, Lillian, I don't think I know Kay Johnson. Do either of y'all have any other thoughts that are coming to mind?
Hi, I was late. I'm sorry. Traffic was a little nuts. Little moisture in the air in Texas. You know, everybody forgets to learn how to drive. Ryan Sengel, I'm the Food and Nutrition Director for Manor ISD, Manor, Texas. And positive stuff. I've built a really nice relationship with Common Market, although we had to take a little break there for a bit because of same issues that school districts across the country are dealing with, which is a lot of staffing issues. Particularly, we had to sort of simplify our menu a little bit for some time periods and deliveries and things like that. So it's been tough, but it's been nice to forge a nice partnership with them and get some good quality food in front of our kids, and they're enjoying it quite a lot. So far so good, and we look forward to the future. I think this partnership's going to be really great for Central Texas and for our school district and for all the other school districts that are on this call. So really appreciate all the hard work that everybody's doing for this.
Thanks for sharing that, Ryan. Yeah, it sounds like collaboration is kind of at the core of this. Oh, thanks for putting that in the chat, Keisha. Nice to meet you. You're a farmer looking to learn more. That's wonderful. It's great to connect. If you'd like to unmute yourself and share a little bit more about yourself, we'd love to learn more, but if not, that's okay. Maybe we can follow up offline and talk a little bit further.
A question for Ryan. And Margot, between the partnership with Manor ISD and Common Market, what products have you found to be most successful with the kiddos?
Well,
Ryan, oh yeah, go ahead, Brett.
thanks. Sorry. So we've brought in red potatoes, did a roasted red potato, and then have been bringing in sweet potatoes for the last couple of weeks. We got an order in today, so those will be on the menu on Friday. So those have been pretty successful for the most part. I think that's it. Do we do anything else, Margot? I'm having a brain fart.
We've come up with a really great plan about highlighting these particular items that are really stable as far as availability goes, even through this crazy weather fluctuation that we live in constantly. And it's just really great to see the utilizing of these really two specific items, because it's been a challenge, like Ryan said. And kids love potatoes. Starchy foods are the best when you're like in a school setting sometimes. I still get French fries, but it's also an opportunity. You know, we're definitely working on working on sourcing some strawberries right now. I'm just putting that out there. Ryan put us on the hunt for them, and we're working really closely with onboarding some farmers that might allow us the capacity to do so. In our other schools, we've seen really great success. We have really cool items that are a little bit more difficult to utilize without staffing, but oddly enough, kale has been really great on the salad bars, responding for the secondary and the upper level schools. As far as the elementary schools go, red potatoes, sweet potatoes, those have been the going items.
Thank you.
We had a question in the chat. Margot, can you talk a little bit more about how you're accomplishing your poultry procurement?
Yes, absolutely. We have a great relationship with Greener Pastures in Elgin. They have been incredibly communicative. And one of the things that we are really uplifting is the fact that we have a very close relationship with this producer that allows us to make, communication solid and very quick on the turnaround. I think that's probably been the best success, is having a producer who is very, very understanding that there are things that are required and we talked about some of the guidelines from the USDA. When we're talking about school procurement, a lot of producers know that there's a lot of front end work that need to go into that, and being able to have a relationship like this and have the available volumes that are needed and in the available type of cuts is really great, but also having the correct packaging and just knowing that the order is going to continually be of a great quality. It allows us to really speak with confidence when we are talking about introducing this product onto a menu, especially with all that comes with the types of cuts that are available. And so having that malleability and having a very strong communication path set with our producers has probably been the best advantages that we've had for success.
Thank you, Margot. We're planning a trip out there in a couple weeks. I was talking to Margaret, and I met Min on Friday, so I look forward to meeting you too. I know you've been working with Cameron, but I appreciate your kind.
Yes. I mean, apparently I'm the only one left besides
I think we lost you there, Margaret.
and if you're
Sorry, I think we lost you. I think your connection got a little wonky there. You sounded like a very cool robot.
Muted now, so.
Yeah.
Anybody who's worked with our schools before, you've met John, and if you haven't, meet John. He is the best and most reliable driver on this earth.
Yeah, Snapster John, the best delivery driver in Texas.
Sorry about technology and I are still.
It's all good. All good.
I'll drop my contact info in here for anyone who wants to get in touch with us too. Let me put that real quick. I'll put it in the chat.
Well, we are going to be sending out a feedback survey that will have more information about this, but I did want to ask folks, we are hoping to do more events like this, and I'm curious if there's anything in particular that someone might be interested in learning about, either from other experts or from other school procurement experts and school procurement professionals in Texas. And it could be about local procurement, but it could be about something else farm to school related as well.
Yeah, I always trying to look for somebody else to pay for everything that we do. So yeah, any grant opportunities that are out there and available for farm to school stuff, equipment, things like that. If anybody, knows of anything that's available, that would be great. I've taken advantage of quite a few already, but I know there's more out there. So it'd be nice to, there's an expert on that, or if anybody has any information on any of that stuff too, would be great.
I'd be interested more on how to get the food from, let's say there is a school garden, how to get it into the cafeterias, whether that's engaging the students, good recipes, or like the rules and regulations needed to follow to keep food safe from garden to cafe. So those would all be something as well I'm interested in.
Both of those sound like very rich veins. Like there's a lot to talk about there. I love that for sure. Great suggestion.
Garden management too. Yeah, that's manpower to have a school garden and how to make it happen, keep it running.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Good suggestions.
I know someone had asked in the chat too about a field trip. I know in October, we're tentatively scheduling a farm tour. We're in Elgin, but we want to do that in line with Farm to School Month. So anyone who'd be interested in that, they can reach out to us.
Awesome. Well, that's the questions I had. Unless anyone else has more thoughts that they want to bring to the group, we can probably wrap it up there. I do want to thank everyone, again, our speakers and all of our participants today. We will have, I'm going to put the feedback survey in the chat. So if you have any feedback about today's event and how it went, we really, really value that. We are also creating a Google group to continue this conversation, because it's clear that there's a lot of rich ideas and discussion that we can continue to have, as well as resources we can share out amongst the group. So once you finish that feedback survey, you will be prompted to fill out another form where you can enter your email and join that Google group. I'll also be sending out more information over email as well if you signed up for this event with your email. I will challenge folks. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to continue talking about this and talking about it both with nonprofit support and technical assistance, as well as just with the other child nutrition experts in Texas. So if there's anything that you think that you might know enough about to share out with your peers at an event like this, or maybe offline over email or developing a resource, then please reach out to me and we can talk it through. Create some new ideas. Once you've joined that Google group, you can also send out an email just to introduce yourself to everyone else out there, and we can start some conversations going. Cool. Thanks everyone very much. I appreciate your time and have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks, Hallie.
Awesome. Thank you, Hallie.
Thank you.
That's all.